All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and we've been going over the W3 Schools jQuery tutorial. And I'm up to the traversing section, which is section 4, section 4. All right, and we're going to talk about traversing, ancestors, descendants, siblings, and filtering. Again, in the next lesson, I think I'm going to go over and combine the Ajax, the miscellaneous, and the examples. And then finally, we'll look at the references. We may even, let's just see how far we go. So traversing means to move through, as it says, which means to move through. They're used to find or select HTML elements based on their relations to other elements. All right, so here's an example of a family tree, and they give a great, this really is a good example. This div says the div there is the parent of the UL, and it is the ancestor, grandparent, great-grandparent, etc. of everything underneath it. The UL is the parent of this LI, and it's the parent of this LI. The span, each span here is a child of the left LI, and each of these spans are siblings. This B tag is a child of that LI. The span, the two spans, and the B tags are known as leaf nodes because they have nothing coming out of them. So jQuery provides, as it says, a multiple number of methods that you can use to traverse the DOM. Here is their reference. And as you can see, I would guess there's somewhere in the area of what, 10 to 20? Closer to 30. All right. So ancestors, as it says, allows you to move your way up the DOM tree. And you'll notice that there are 3 different associated methods: parent, singular, parents, plural, and parents until. The parent method moves you up a single level in the DOM tree. All right. And I think this is already running. Little confusing example here. So the parents shows you everything. Boom. So the span, that's the parent. There's the grandparent, great-grandparent, great-great-grandparent. Typically, you don't talk about it in that way. Just as typically, you might talk about siblings, but you don't typically talk about aunts and uncles, etc. It doesn't make much sense to do that. It's not that you can't do it, it's just that it typically is not done. All right, and it's telling it, in this case, to find the grandparents. So parent, grandparent. Until you've worked with this stuff a while, it probably isn't going to make a boatload of sense. Why would you ever want to use this? Because if you were in one part of the DOM and you want to be able to manipulate something else in the DOM, you're able to do that through these traversal methods. So a descendant is a child, a grandchild, great-grandchild, etc. To traverse your way down, you can find the children, or you can find as many levels down as you want. Children returns just the direct children. It only traverses a single level down the tree. All right. So the div has 2 p tags under it, but notice it doesn't show the spans. Whereas I believe in this example it will. Nope. Just shows the current element, so it's telling it to only go down 1. And the find will find the spans. So it'll allow you to go down, kind of look at it as being a family tree. All right. And with this family tree, if you only want to go down one level, all right, then you would use the children method. So if I wanted to go down one level, that would find my children. All right, but if I wanted to find my grandchildren, I don't currently have any, but I'll have one hopefully later this month, then I would use the find method, and I could find the grandchildren. Again, as always, there are exercises and there are hyperlinks to their references. All right, siblings. Again, those are things that are on the next level. There are many useful jQuery methods for traversing sideways. Siblings next, next all, next until, prev all, prev until. So next goes forward, prev goes backward. So as it says, this showed everything that was under the H2 tag. You can also use an optional parameter to filter. So that just shows the ones that have a P tag in them. Next returns the next sibling of the selected element. So what comes right under H2? And it's H3. And you can see them right there. Next all returns everything that's underneath there. So this says give me everything under the H2 tag, and under the H2 tag there's an H3 tag and a P tag. The next until again allows some filtering to take place, so it returns all sibling elements between two given arguments. This says show everything between H2 and H6. So let's, when we look at this, that should show this, H3, H4, H5, and you can see that it does. Now, really, I'm not doing this justice. I'm not, because there are actually a lot of uses for this stuff. You may want to, have to, need to traverse your way around the DOM. And remember, you can do all of this stuff while the program is running, while a user is doing different things. So based on user input, you can bring all of these that you need to into play. So the three most basic filtering methods are first, last, and EQ. There's also filter and not. First, as it says, returns the first element. So we're asking here for the first element, I believe, under our div, which is right here. Of the first div. Here it'll give us the last element of the last div. Equal, notice here again the numbers start with 0. Some of this stuff when you work with it in CSS starts with 1 and some starts with 0. So the equal method is mentioned here, returns an element with a specific index number of the selected elements, again starting with 0. So this says just grab, remember we're starting with 0, so grab the second paragraph, index 1, and set it to yellow. Here they're saying anything with a class of intro, and that's these two paragraphs. All right, let's quickly jump into, because I don't think I'm very far into this. No, I'm not even 10 minutes. So let's jump into the Ajax intro. Ajax, again, is the idea of being able to just update part of a web page without reloading the whole page. So, you saw how that changed. We told it literally to go out and load in a file, an external file. You didn't get that flicker, though, that you get when you refresh a page, because we're just doing a partial page refresh. So again, Ajax is an acronym that stands for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Allows you to do a partial page refresh. All right, it says if you want more, we can go to the Ajax tutorial. I'm not going to do that right now. Okay. jQuery provides several methods for Ajax functionality. Notice, writing regular Ajax code can be a bit tricky because different browsers have different syntax. However, the jQuery team has taken care of that, so you can write Ajax functionality with only a single line of code. That's one of the things that's nice about this. When you use all the different Ajax methods with JavaScript, you have to account for IE versus non-IE browsers, etc. The load method, as it says, loads data from a server and puts the returned data into the selected element. The required parameter, URL parameter, specifies the URL you want to load. The data parameter is optional. It specifies a key value pair to send along with the request. And the callback is again optional, what you want to call when you get done. All right, so ideally, when we load, you're going to see, when I click the button, you're going to see in there that particular file. This is some text in a paragraph, and again, that text came from right here. It is also possible to add a jQuery selector to the URL parameter. All right. And that could have some CSS on it, I suppose, if you wanted to. The optional callback parameter, as mentioned there, specifies a callback function to be called. Or to be run when the load method completes. Callback can have these parameters. Response text contains the resulting context if the call succeeds. Status text, which has the status of the call, and XHR. That's a big thing when you're working with Ajax, because since you're working with things external, typically, you're bringing in stuff from another file or another URL, you very well might want to do this programmatically to say whether or not something worked. It loaded successfully, so there's no error message. All right. Now, I should get an error message when I do this because I don't actually have, do I have the demo text? We'll find out. How about that? We get error because I don't have that file. That external file exists on the W3 School server. All right. Again, notice there's a jQuery reference in here. There's just not enough time to go through everything there is to go through. The get and post. The get and post are used to request data from the server via a get, which returns data from a specific resource, and typically, remember, puts all that information in the query string, and a post, which submits data and puts it in the HTTP header. So the get requests data from the server. Here is an example. This is some text from an external ASP file, status success. Where did it get that? It got that from here. And it worked. So since it worked, we got the message. Now I don't know if I can come back in here and do this or not. Not actually giving us anything, but notice we're not because I changed that from ASP to just AS. Now it works again. Post allows us to post things back. All right, miscellaneous here. The no conflict says, what if you wish to use other frameworks on your page while still using jQuery? There are other JavaScript libraries. Let's put in here JavaScript libraries. 40 useful JavaScript libraries. All right, but let's just look here. jQuery is the most popular. There's also things like MooTools, Prototype, Dojo, and YUI, which is Yahoo's user interface. All of them, I believe, in some form or other, also use the $sign. So if that happens, it says if two frameworks are using the same shortcut, one might cancel out the other one. The jQuery team already thought about this and implemented the no conflict method, which releases the hold of the $sign so that other scripts are able to use it. You can also create your own shortcut very easily. And again, you notice that it's still working. That's pretty heavy stuff. All right. And lastly, when you look in here, notice again, jQuery miscellaneous reference. So there's other stuff here that they're not talking about. All right. The examples, notice they break them up into the different areas that we've just talked about. There is a quiz if you're interested, where you can test your skills. And if you pass that, you can even get a certificate. Now, is that going to get you a job? I'm not saying it is. But the idea, again, is it's something else that you can add to your resume if you want. So here are all the references. Here are all the different selectors, all the different events, the different effects, the HTML and CSS methods, the traversal methods, the Ajax methods, the miscellaneous methods, and the jQuery properties. So that does it for the W3 schools. When I come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about the jQuery user interface, and I'll be back with that shortly.